Welcome, I am Chelsea Pasakinis.
And I'm Carley Parkinson.
We are going to discuss today about experiential learning and through the hands-on education.
Experiential learning theory is a process of learning through active experience, reflection, and then application. We're going to go over the learning objectives for today. Our goal is to be able to identify and differentiate the basic concepts of the experiential learning theory, to recognize the evolution of the experiential learning theory, and to be able to describe and create application techniques to use in the classroom setting. We're going to take a quick look at the history of the experiential learning theory. So as you can see, I've included a few quotes from Confucius and Benjamin Franklin. I've included these quotes to kind of round out the ideology of experiential learning that we'll get to through the rest of this screencast. So when we look at historical foundations and perspectives, we most notably begin with John Dewey. Dewey, which we will take a further look into in the next few slides, believed that learning was a psychosocial experience in which both elements needed to be considered when preparing to teach and actively learn through experiences. We also look at Kurt Lewin. Lewin's study of social psychology influenced the experiential theory by the recognition of individuality and behavior, but also by Lewin created his own model, which is similar to David Cobb's theory, which you will also see later in this presentation. We also look at Carl Rogers. Rogers influenced David Cobb's theory of experiential learning through his belief that all humans have a natural desire to learn and that the teacher is meant to facilitate this experience. Next, we look at Jean Piaget. Piaget's theory and studies support experiential learning through the process of cognitive development that ultimately produces learning and knowledge. However, we most often refer to John Dewey as the father of experiential learning and David Cobb as the modern theorist who took Dewey's own model and altered it to fit the modern world, and through also the many influences of these men. John Dewey was an American-born philosopher and educator that was a leader of the progressive movement of education, which we now know as the experiential learning theory. Dewey believed that experience equals education, and there are two sides to the learning process: psychological and sociological. Dewey also believed that we must understand the social conditions of the student to reach into their psychological powers to effectively educate that individual student. Dewey continued to fight for the change in education to be more active and experience-based through the 1930s. As you will discover in the next few slides, there are many differences between David Cobb's learning theory model and the model influenced by Dewey that you see here. Cobb's own model has condensed this model to a more relevant and modern concept that was geared toward the technical age of the 1980s.
So David Cobb published his model in 1984. It occurs in two four-step processes that allow for a holistic perspective that combines experience, perception, cognition, and behavior. Two concepts, overall concepts, are grasping and transferring. In the grasping, we have the concrete experience, which is doing or having a new situation that is encountered, or a reinterpretation of an existing experience. The other concrete is abstract. This is learning from an experience. It gives a new idea or modification of an existing abstract concept. This person has already learned from their experience. The other main concept is transferring. So that's observation. Observation is reviewing or reflecting on a particular importance or any inconsistencies between experiences and understanding. And the last one is active, which is planning or trying out what you have already learned. The learner is able to apply their ideas to the real world and sees what happened. This is a full integrated process. You are able to enter any stage and follow through its logical sequence. Effective learning only occurs when a learner can execute all four stages of the model. The second step of Kolb's learning theory is the 4 steps in the learning style, which is how we actually make our decisions. We have our processing continuum, which is how we approach a task, and we have the perception continuum, which is the emotional response, or how we think and feel. Then he classifies people as 4 different areas. We have diverging. These people look at things from a different perspective, and they prefer to actually watch rather than actually do. They create information and use their imagination to solve the problems. These people are actually interested in other people. They are imaginative and emotional. You have the assimilating group. These people are learners that like a logical approach. They like ideas and concepts more than they like people. These people like sound theories compared to the practical value. These people prefer reading, analytical models, and time to think things through. We have convergers. These people can problem solve and use their thinking to find solutions to practical issues. They prefer tactical tasks and are less concerned with people and interpersonal aspects. They like to experiment with new ideas and to simulate and work with practical situations. The last group is accommodating. These are the hands-on, and they rely on intuition rather than logic. People like to use these analysis that others have already created, but take a practical and experiential approach to it. They are also attracted to new challenges and often rely on their gut instinct. So when we're putting Kolb's theory into an actual application, we can take it through a learning design activity of ankle taping. So to take those 4 steps, we make it do, observe, think, and plan. So the first thing we do is we learn the steps of an ankle tape. We learn the order. We know that anchors go first, and then horseshoes, and then so on. And then you also learn the function of a basic ankle tape. Once you do that, and you tape the ankle, you then can observe it, reflect on how well you did. Typically, this is done by taking the ankle job off, ripping all the pre-wrap, and looking up at the light and seeing what is actually missing and where you can actually change things. Then you go to the think. Well, now that you just observed where those light spots are, you can think about what angles need to be changed and how you can actually make this ankle tape job stronger. And then the last step of plan, you can change the way you tape that ankle job, but then also you can look at what you can do for future ankle tape jobs. What makes them different from person to person? A football athlete likes it up high and down low on the foot, whereas soccer players want the minimalist on their ankle. So you have to adjust to what your athlete's needs are. So in summary, Dewey and Kolb are the main theorists to be able to develop and continue with the experiential learning theory. Experiential learning theory is the process of learning through active experience, reflection, and then application. Kolb's last words were, learning is a process where knowledge is created through the transformation of experience.
Thanks so much for going on this journey with us, and we hope that you had a great learning experience. And please let us know if you have any more questions.
Thanks!
Bye!